pandemic is a mirror because it holds both such power. You have us both of them, both the fire tablet and the pandemic hold such power to find light in the gloom of night, and shows how the fire of the love of God provides illumination amidst the chaos of modern life, while burning away our prejudices, fears, and frustrations to ashes. For me, I'm recovering well, and thank you for your thoughts and prayers. I expect to be discharged tomorrow. It is appropriate that the wonderful that we open this example of global healing of mankind's diverse ills with a once-in-a-lifetime chanting of a Lakota healing prayer played and chanted by our brother Kevin Locke, healing all our trials. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Oh. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, that was absolutely amazing. And we are very fortunate to also have Kevin Locke with us here as well. And Kevin, I have unmuted you. If you want to say anything to John, please feel free. You have a few minutes, and then we're going to begin with the fire tablet.
Okay, hi John. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, where are you?
Oh, I'm here in a public place. That's I gotta kind of mask up and I can't talk too loud. But yeah, those songs they're just it's the first one. It says it's the voice of the grandfather above. I always say that's Bahá'u'lláh, and it says I have come to renew humanity. I have come to renew. Well, they say the word wahunumpa means two-legged ones. I have appeared to renew humanity. And the next one, so now is the time to arise, to stand up before God. Now is the time to arise. So I thought those would be good songs. Those are songs that my mom really liked. And I'm really happy to be able to participate here this evening and looking forward to it. Yeah.
Are you in South Dakota or Florida?
Right now I'm in Florida. Yeah. Yeah. I've been
Greet your
down here.
wife.
Yeah, I will do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, and then we're going to begin. Thank you.
Okay, the fire tablet was not part of my devotional routine while I'd read it a few times, I never felt any special connection to it. And then a member of a spiritual assembly on which I served suggested that we use this daily in preparation for a project that was about to begin. Having more sense than to argue against prayer, I went ahead with it. And after several days of reciting this out of obedience, I took special note of the last paragraph that admonishes believers to, quote, read and ponder this. Baha'u'lláh said to ponder, so ponder I did, or rather started, because that launched a burning quest that has no end. Each new pondering illumined more embers of insight. I began to feel as an eavesdropper listening to an intimate and private conversation between the manifestation and his beloved. I sat spellbound by the precious gems of wisdom. Actually, Alí-Akbar, hence all of us, were invited to listen in. Absolutely, it seems Baha'u'lláh wanted us to know, hear the bearing of his soul. The tablet has three distinct parts. After opening in the name of God, the most great, the most ancient, the most great, there are 36 paragraphs, each with three parts. A lamentation followed by a question which can lead to greater understanding, ending the name of or attribute of the Lord of all the worlds, awlameen. This is followed by 10 responses from God, concluding with God weeping over the fewness of Baha'u'llah's companions. The final three paragraphs start with the effect this tablet had on Bahá'u'lláh himself. Then Alí-Akbar is told that he could breathe the fragrance of my meekness. Finally, you and I are asked to ponder, that is, think about this weighty tablet. Throughout the world, the fire tablet has become a trusted companion. Its value can be felt at every level of understanding. Upon first hearing of the cause, one woman mentioned the faith to a friend who had a copy of the fire tablet. Neither of them was a Baha'i, yet they read it together. The woman later became a Baha'i and reported, I felt its power and didn't understand a word of it. A believer of many decades said, I've always felt its power more than I understood its meaning. An Eskimo believer mentioned that it reminded her of the days of her youth when the elders would talk about the hardships of the past to give them hope and expectancy for the future. Many believers have relied on the source of comfort and strength during times of intense or prolonged difficulties, especially faced with intractable circumstances or when help is urgently and immediately needed now. During a lingering terminal illness, one believer found reading and rereading this tablet as his greatest source of comfort. When first reading this, a college administrator, who was not a Baha'i, stated how this tablet provided a perspective and made his problems seem less consequential. A prominent psychiatrist observed that those who say this tablet regularly seem to be energized and operate on a higher plane. And do we have an Arabic speaker to read this?
You would like to read this, Nada?
Yeah, if you could just read the entire slide. Thank you.
Sure. In Arabic, this tablet is called Locke Osrolo Mukhlesun, sorry. The word ishtiraq means not just a flame, but has the connotation of fervent heat. One Arabic scholar suggested that the translation of verily, it ignites the hearts of the sincere, more accurately reflects the subtleties of meaning implied in the title.
Thank you very much. Woes, trials, and tribulations. are the most universal of human experiences. No one is immune. No one escapes. They are the lot of rich men and beggars, commoners and kings, the learned and illiterate, the fool and the sage. While each person has a story, woes are the stuff of life. These events and our reactions shape an enduring part of who each of us is. Bahá'u'lláh said, quote, O ye rich ones of the earth, flee not from the face of the poor that lieth in the dust. Nay, rather befriend him and suffer him to recount the tale of the woes with which God's inscrutable decree hath caused him to be afflicted. Close quote. No matter how different their situations in life, telling this tale of the woes, the poor and the rich are linked by affliction, the common denominators of life. These common woes are tied together with the symbolism of fire, which is one of man's most ancient tools. It's been widely regarded as the most important civilizing agent, probably well over 1 million years old. Nothing holds such awe, respect, and even worship as a fire. It contains strong contrary qualities. We all love a good warming fire and have justified fear for fire raging out of control. Suffering reaches the heart like few other things. Many a wanderer in the desert of life was shaken to the core of his being by a crisis, and in an instant reordered his life and priorities. Common woes build bridges that span chasms between diverse people and touch hearts when nothing else can. There's an Arabic saying that we remember those with whom we cry longer with those with whom we only laugh. There are countless instances of people reaching out and touching others who they don't even know in the wake of famine, fire, floods, and earthquakes, or the ravages of war, persecution, and pestilence. Someone who has survived an ordeal can comfort someone just facing it far better than those who have not had that experience. A testimony to the bounding power of common afflictions is the number of successful support groups in recent years. It is an evidence of the special relationships that are born of common ordeals. In the fire tablet, Baha'u'lláh touches on all human suffering as it relates his own anguish, pondering the number and magnitude of items that weighed so heavily upon the prophet of God diminishes personal concerns and places them in a better perspective. This dissipates pain and directs thoughts away from one's own ordeals. Reflecting on these tribulations is an exquisite antidote to and can protect the person from being self-absorbed. Reading the English translation while listening to the Arabic chanting can produce another sensation, even when the listener does not know Arabic. It slows down the pace of reading. It leads to easy and natural reflection and pondering, while cloaked in the ambience of the chanting. This is a holy ecstasy that can rise above words and letters and transcend the murmur of syllables and sounds. The literary artistry is especially awesome for anyone who's dared put pen to paper. The 36 triads of lamentations, questions, and attributes of God create a pulse on leggings of rare proportion, like rhythmic mantra, whether to give relief or call attention to the most grievous perplexity, or assure the medium does not eclipse the message. About 3/4 of the way through the 38th lamentation, there is a one-time reversal of the lament and the question. The theme of that one, ask me if have any championed thyself, or ponder what hath befallen him, is especially sobering because of the weight of that tribulation interrupts creative flow. Now doth my pen halt. Then the original pattern is continued. It's hard to imagine a more poignant or aesthetically pleasing vehicle for meditating on such profound issues. The four stanzas mention faithful souls the first four stanzas mention faithful souls by addressing the hearts of the sincere, those who are near unto thee, thy chosen ones, and longing hands, each of whom were depicted as enduring some sort of hardship. Baha'u'lláh said, "My calamity is my providence." Here we are left with the calamity, but providence is promised. That suggests up to us to look for it. That can lead to journeys, search, and contemplation. And there'll be more on this specific thing where Baha'u'lláh specifically answers some of them later on. From there, the themes shift. The Lamentations of paragraphs 6 to 17 describe world conditions. They could be used in today's headlines. Paragraphs 18 to 37, the Lamentations speak directly of the plight of the wronged one, interlaced with the depravity of the world. The whole has the effect of getting the reader's attention, then focusing that attention to the conditions of the world, the manifestations of despair. This can release the reader from the prison of self and give him a new perspective. It is awesome to contemplate the themes of oppression. Baha'u'lláh speaks of infidels risen in tyranny, the barking of dogs, coldness, calamity, darkness, malice, abasement, anguish, sore thirst, greed, agonies of death, whisperings of Satan, drunkenness of passion, fancy and idle imaginings, tyranny, poisoning winds of sedition, and dust of sin. And look at some of the consequences of these ordeals. Mankind is being gripped, enveloped, in extremes of calamity reaching its height, and abasement its lowest depths, things which affect all the people, all men, all mankind, every creature, and most of mankind. The lamps of truth, purity, loyalty, and honor put out. The entire universe is darkened. These references produce an all-inclusive, seemingly gloomy tapestry. Among the 36 refrains, everyone can find examples which have special meaning or that bring to mind some personal experience or special insight which impacts her or his soul. This creates special connections for other readers, guiding the individual to new levels of awareness and receptivity. An added potency is produced, as this does, coming from the beloved in poetic garb. Now, another aspect of the fire tablet is that it fuses hearts to the covenant. Living in the light of the covenant is a constant awareness of the relationship of the divine. Since each refrain concludes with the name and or an attribute of God, and Baha'u'lláh says in another place that his names and attributes are partial reflections of his reality. There is a series of connections to the covenant itself. Each one attaches to yet another facet of divine reality. Spaced, as these names and attributes are throughout the tablet, there's a gentle, periodic, and persistent cohesion to various aspects of the divine consciousness, and therefore the covenant. This is similar to spot welding two pieces of metal together. Intermittent welds rather than a continuous bead. It is as if including each phrase with some name or attribute of God connects or spot welds us to the covenant. A contrast can be seen between the lamentations and the names and attributes. While the lamentations are immediate and in some cases dramatic and even violent, the names and attributes suggest unfolding over time. In the third response from God, the prophet is admonished not to lament the wicked, but to be patient, implying that resolution of difficulties take time, but wrongs will be righted. A person's whole being can be stirred by reflecting on the names and attributes of God listed in the tablet, even without reference to the rest of the verses. Reflecting on these names and attributes never fails to stir in me emotions with a sensation of pervading my entire being. The most ancient, the most great, beloved of the world, desire of the world, enchanter of the world, answerer of the world, conqueror of the world, chastiser of the world, fire of the world, salvation of the world, radiance of the world, destroyer of the world, glory of the world, the all-merciful, delight of the world, joy of the world, power of the world, mercy of the world, Lord of the world, sovereign of the world, trust of the world, life of the world, light of the world, desire of the world, light of the world, nightingale of the world, assurance of the world, savior of the world, light giver of the world, mover of the world, beloved of the world, champion of the world, mercy of the world, adorner of the world, desire of the world, unlocker of the world, giver of the world, forgiver of the world, bestower of the world, the tongue of grandeur, all glorious beloved, ordainer of the world, and the ordained of all the world. There is a set of names and attributes used in the refrain for the messenger. While some of them are the same as those for God, they present a slightly different picture. Wronged one, revealer of thy name, the all-merciful, supreme pen, wronged one of the world, expounder of the world, light of the world, patience of the world, love of the world, rapture of the world, thou exile of the world, cry of the world, thou concealer of the sins of men of the world, thou sacrifice of the world, and thou who hast caused the wailing of the world. The 36 lamentations from the first part of the tablet warm the partaker by reflecting on matters both grand and humble. This inspires a better appreciation of the price Baha'u'lláh paid to bring his revelation to mankind. This echoes themes of the days of atonement for the Hebrew people, for redemption described in the New Testament and the Quran. The Christian can recall, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that through the world might be saved. For the Muslim, there is a reminder that the meaning of the word Islam itself is surrender to the will of God. This obedience is the redemptive path to peace and salvation. The manifestation has the sensitivity and capacity to be affected by a much wider range of trials and more deeply than is true of ordinary mortals. This includes the grief suffered by each one of us, as he said, by my life, thy grievances have plunged me into sorrow. Regard not the children of the world and all their doings, but fix thy gaze upon God and his never-ending dominion. Verily, he calleth to thy remembrance that which is the source of delight for all mankind. Drink thou the life-giving waters of blissful joy in the chalice of utterance proffered by the fountainhead of divine revelation. He who has made mention of thee in this mighty stronghold, endeavor to the utmost of thy power to establish the word of truth and with eloquence and wisdom, and to dispel falsehood in the face of the earth. Wow, wallowing in our own grievances does not seem to be acceptable. Not only is there the danger of plunging Baha'u'lláh into further sorrow, and who wants to be responsible for that, but the individual is called upon to focus on the source of delight for all mankind. The formula for complete victory is stated this way: to establish the word of truth with eloquence and wisdom. Through this mechanism, he takes the energy generated by grievances and transforms it into a benefit by applying that power to spreading his word. Toward the end of the tablet, the messenger is called, O thou sacrifice of the world. In the context of pressing onward, this suffering makes it possible for a redeemed soul to be renewed. Netta, are you reading this?
Sure. The reality of change in all things is so fundamental that some Buddhists refer to it as the only constant. The possibility of changing for the better is at the heart of the Christian concept of salvation. Baha'u'lláh states that guidance, which implies the capacity for change, is the very purpose for the coming of all manifestations of God. Two human limiting characteristics are: one, seeing everything through the window of one's own experience, and two, finding what one is looking for. Those who are looking for things to complain about can find much that is dire wherever they look. Others, who are looking for reasons to celebrate, easily find emblems of joy. Whether looking for the good or the bad in life, what is in your mind and heart tends to call attention to itself.
In a tablet to Alí-Akbar's uncle, the beloved states that he revealed the fire tablet for thy nephew so that it might create in him feelings of joy as well as igniting the fire of the love of God. If Baha'u'lláh wanted to create feelings of joy, why did he start by listing so many sad things? Superficially, it looks more like a highway to depression rather than things which ought to lead to feelings of joy. How can joy be found among such terrible things? One way is to view this, that even when the problems are obvious, finding solutions can be a challenge. Yet the negatives can easily be a starting point, providing a wide range of choices. At one extreme, one can look at the Lamentations and see the questions as reiterating and emphasizing dismal aspects of life. It is easy to dwell on each phrase as a requiem and not get beyond the mournful state. However, there's a strong implication that sorrows are necessary in order to experience feelings of joy. Here, Baha'u'lláh gets into a sort of a yin and yang kind of a situation. Look at the contrast of the first three responses. Answer the specific lamentation. Go ahead, Netta.
Coldness hath gripped all mankind. Where is the warmth of thy love, O fire of the worlds? Calamity hath reached its height. Where are the signs of thy succor, O salvation of the worlds? Darkness hath enveloped most of the peoples. Where is the brightness of thy splendor, O radiance of the worlds?
Now that's at the beginning of the tablet. At the very point where God is speaking back to the manifestation, he answers those specific questions. To the plea, coldness hath gripped all mankind, God answers, were it not for the cold, how would the heat of your words prevail? To the lamentation, calamity has reached its height, God answers, were it not for calamity, how would the sun of thy patience shine? Baha'u'lláh laments, darkness hath enveloped most of the people. God responds, lament not because of the wicked. Thou wert created to bear and endure. In other words, you can tough it out, and by implication, so can you and I. That was part of his purpose of life, and this is part of how we serve him. These three speak directly to a different perspective of the Lamentations, as if they are necessary parts of spiritual development. It's been said that the one who wants quick solutions spends 10% of his time thinking of the problem and 90% thinking of a solution, whereas the wise spend 90% of their time thinking of the problem. And from that spring ideas and inspiration, so that only 10% of the time needs to be spent on solutions. It can be inferred from this that coldness, calamities, and darkness will not disappear during this dispensation. Rather, these problems are necessary for us to confront challenges in our spiritual development on planet Earth. In fact, in a prayer, Baha'u'lláh said, quote, keep us safe from them whom thou hast made to be the manifestations of the evil whisperer, close quote, asserting that the manifestation of evil is put here by God and is part of the divine plan. How could we improve if there wasn't a devil to goad us on? Renewal starts when a bad situation is reviewed as the starting point for transformation. In the darkest hours after the crucifixion of Christ, Mary Magdalene was the first of the believers to see hope. She recognized that the reality of the Spirit of Christ lived on. Vaccines that have saved countless lives were first developed because of the epidemic of smallpox, and we're going through another iteration of that right now. Since no answers are provided as the questions are raised, the reader becomes a participant in the process and selects the direction of his or her response. One choice is to find the resolution as if each statement were a dilemma to be solved. Through pondering, a pilgrimage of renewal is started in search of new insights. The nature of visions is shaped by the experience, interests, and concerns of the one searching. If one is looking for messages of hope, hope will be found. If looking for signs of despair, despair will be found. If looking for more mysteries to ponder, mysteries will be found. If looking for whichever course is taken, the questions orient, energize, and drive the pilgrim toward greater insights and renewal. This revelation brings an intriguing shift in the way each soul is to find its way to deeper understanding. There's also a shift in how we relate to the world about us, either individually or collectively. There's no longer a clergy to explain spiritual realities. We have to find them ourselves. That is the responsibility of every believer. As if to highlight this shift, an entire Baha'i month is called questions. Simple superficial answers are replaced by probing deeper, giving rise to more appropriate answers. Some people claim this is the greatest attribute that God has given man, is the ability to raise questions. This attribute enables us to go beyond surface relevance. But where's the month of answers? That isn't there. You got to supply your own. The greater importance of questions has many implications. Most obvious is that everyone is to seek answers on his or her own behalf. This is the real independent investigation of truth. We've all heard this in our early days. Investigation that begins only after accepting Bahá'u'lláh. Before that, we were investigating reality, searching for the voice of God for this age, searching for truth. Once the revelation of Bahá'u'lláh has been recognized, the individual begins the investigation of truth rather than for truth. Prior to accepting the messenger, the best anyone can do is investigate assumptions and discover shadows of truth. Also high among the implications is the framing of questions. How a question is framed is fundamental to any insight gained. In a sense, the question is more important than the answer, since it is the essential starting point in the journey toward greater illumination. In contrast to probing for more profound insights, our fast-paced society and way of life tends to want bumper sticker answers and responses before issues are understood. It seems that the blessed view is saying that in any given situation, it's important to frame the question carefully and properly in order to find the meaningful answers. Wars and other recourses to violence are fought over boundaries. Wrong question. It should be, how can disparate people live together in harmony? How can you get the right answer when you ask the wrong question? Netta?
A new insight comes into view when one considers that in the 36 triads, Baha'u'lláh presents a problem-solving model. He, 1, states the situation, 2, frames the question, and then 3, invokes a name or attribute of God. Wouldn't life be a lot simpler if this method were used more often? The 33rd refrain reads, "The door leading to the divine presence is locked through the tyranny of thy foes. Where is the key of thy bestowal, O unlocker of the worlds?" The attribute of unlocker implies a way out of the dilemma. A clear and specific response is found in the tablets of Bahá'u'lláh. The word is the master key for the whole world, inasmuch as through its potency, the doors of the hearts of men, which in reality are the doors of heaven, are unlocked. This is not just any key, it is the master key. And it is not just for one subject, but gives access to the whole world. This not only provides the solution to the immediate issue, but goes far beyond. It becomes the means of opening all doors, which is overcoming problems or barriers behind which are hidden treasures. An even greater bounty is that the doors, which in reality are the doors of heaven, are unlocked. By relating each question to his other writings on that subject, the master key opens not only the doors of understanding for that issue, but leads to as many new arenas of thought as one chooses to pursue because the doors of heaven are unlocked. Eureka! It is not necessary to remain at the level of lament. The key is identified as the word of God. This changes the focus away from the negative or passive condition of the locked door to the positive and active solution of using the keys which are in his writings, opening the doors to new discoveries.
Leaving the door locked, that is, not reading the writings, leads to a host of problems, many of which are the headlines every night and what the world is experiencing today, because people have not yet found the key that can unlock those problems. It is indeed a potent reminder that the writings are the pathway to unlimited fields of beautiful roses and understanding. Within the fire tablet, this method of searching can be applied to other lamentations. And so it goes. The tablet is filled with hints for further pondering. The third refrain has a daily rejoinder. Where is the ocean of thy presence? What a problem. But then every day there is a reply in the long obligatory prayer when it's recited. Make of my prayer a light that will lead me unto the ocean of thy presence. Each individual pathway to be followed in seeking that ocean is illumined by prayer. The vastness of thy ocean and the special characteristics of each one's view of that ocean are more features to ponder. Netta?
Paragraph 6 has an example of special interest. Where is the lion of the forest of thy might? The following from the tablets of Bahá'u'lláh answers that cry. Say, if it be our pleasure, we shall render the cause victorious through the power of a single word from our presence. He is in truth the omnipotent, the all-compelling. Should it be God's intention, there would appear out of the forest of celestial might the lion of indomitable strength, whose roaring is like unto the pearls of thunder reverberating in the mountains. However, since our loving providence surpasseth all things, we have ordained that complete victory should be achieved through speech and utterance. It's like unto the peals of thunder. When trusted because life is miserable, the affairs of the world are chaotic, and teaching is not going the way one would like. It is well to remember that it would be easy for God to fix it. Cleaning up the disarray our life is a part of the bounty given to mankind. Each human being has the opportunity to be part of the solution. Therefore, the lion is held at bay. The believers are called upon to win complete victory, which implies the capacity. While it describes the means, speech and utterance, and the reason, loving providence, this also reasserts the fact that for the first time in religious history, violence is not to be used for spreading divine teachings. It is worth noting in this context that while these are the days of roars and rumors of wars and famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places, another phenomenon has emerged. For the first time in world history, wild-scale and increasing attempts are being made both by individuals and nations to settle disputes through speech and utterance, rather than resorting to fighting and force.
This is enough to think about for the first session. So we have a little bit, we don't want to, you want to go to questions and answers, or should we have a reading of the tablet?
I think we could do a reading of the tablet, and then I would love to also give them the homework assignment.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so do you want to do the reading of the tablet now?
I'd rather take a rest.
Okay,
Let
then
someone else.
No, absolutely. So let's take a rest. Let's go to the
No. What I mean is, I'd rather let somebody else read.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what I would like to do, so I would like to ask four friends if they can please raise their hands to volunteer to read the fire tablet. So if you can please raise your hand in the raise your hand feature, and then we will go to the homework assignment. Okay, so we have Karen. Okay, great. So we're gonna go with Karen, Tina, Khandan, and Lori. So just give me 1 second. Please have your prayer books out. And what I'm gonna have you do, since there are 36, I'm gonna have each one of you read 9. So 9 times 4 is 36.
That doesn't get us to the end.
I know, that doesn't get, and then I'm gonna finish it.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, so Karen, you'll be first, and then Tina, and then Khandan, and then Lori. So all you have to do is just unmute yourselves when your time comes, please.
Netta, where do I read up until? Where do I stop?
After the 9th one.
Okay. You want me to start now?
Yes.
Please.
In the name of God, the most ancient, the most great. Indeed, the heart of the sincere are consumed in the fire of separation. Where is the gleaming of the light of thy countenance, O beloved of the world? Those who are near unto thee have been abandoned in the darkness of desolation. Where is the shining of the morn of thy reunion, O desire of the worlds? The bodies of thy chosen ones lie quivering on distant sands. Where is the ocean of thy presence, O enchanter of the worlds? Longing hands are uplifted to the heaven of thy grace and generosity. Where are the rains of thy bestowal, O answerer of the worlds? The infidels have arisen in tyranny on every hand. Where is the compelling power of thine ordaining pen, O conqueror of the worlds? The barking of dogs is loud on every side. Where is the lion of the forest of thy might, O chastiser of the worlds? Coldness hath gripped all mankind. Where is the warmth of thy love, O fire of the worlds? Calamity hath reached its height. Where are the signs of thy succor, O salvation of the worlds? Darkness hath enveloped most of the peoples. Where is the brightness of thy splendor, O radiance of the worlds?
The necks of men are stretched out in malice. Where are the swords of thy vengeance, O destroyer of the worlds? Abasement hath reached its lowest depth. Where are the emblems of thy glory, O glory of the worlds? Sorrows have afflicted the revealer of thy name, the all-merciful. Where is the joy of the dayspring of thy revelation, O delight of the worlds? Anguish hath befallen all the peoples of the earth. Where are the ensigns of thy gladness, O joy of the worlds? Thou seest the dawning place of thy signs veiled by evil suggestions. Where are the fingers of thy might, O power of the worlds? Sore thirst hath overcome all men. Where is the river of thy bounty, O mercy of the worlds? Greed hath made captive all mankind. Where are the embodiments of detachment, O Lord of the worlds? Thou seest this wronged one lonely in exile. Where are the hosts of the heaven, O might of thy command, O sovereign of the worlds? I have been forsaken in a foreign land. Where are the emblems of thy faithfulness, O trust of the worlds? The agonies of death have laid hold on all men. Where is the surging of thine ocean of eternal life, O life of the worlds? The whisperings of Satan have been breathed to every creature. Where is the meteor of thy fire, O light of the worlds? The drunkenness of passion hath perverted most of mankind. Where are the day springs of purity, O desire of the worlds? Thou seest this wronged one veiled in tyranny among the Syrians. Where is the radiance of thy dawning light, O light of the worlds?
Thou seest me forbidden to speak forth. Then from where will spring thy melodies, O nightingale of the worlds? Most of the people are enwrapped in fancy and idle imaginings. Where are the exponents of thy certitude, O assurance of the worlds? Baha is drowning in the sea of tribulation. Where is the ark of thy salvation, O Savior of the worlds? Thou seest the dayspring of thine utterance in the darkness of creation. Where is the sun of the heaven of thy grace, O light giver of the worlds? The lamps of truth and purity, of loyalty and honor have been put out. Where are the signs of thine avenging wrath, O mover of the worlds? Canst thou see any who have championed thyself, or who ponder on what hath befallen him in the pathway of thy love? Now doeth my pen halt, O beloved of the worlds. The branches of thy divine lote tree lie broken by the unrushing gales of destiny. Where are the banners of thy succor, O champion of the worlds? This face is hidden in the dust of slander. Where are the breezes of thy champion, of thy compassion, O mercy of the world? The robe of sanctity is soiled by the people of deceit. Where is the vesture of thy holiness, O adorner of the worlds? The sea of grace is stilled for what the hands of men had wrought. Where are the waves of thy bounty, O desire of the worlds? The door leading to the divine presence is locked through the tyranny of thy foes. Where is the key of thy bestowal, O unlocker of the worlds? The leaves are yellowed by the poisoning winds of sedition. Where is the downpour of the clouds of thy bounty, O giver of the worlds?
The universe is darkened with the dust of sin. Where are the breezes of thy forgiveness, O forgiver of the worlds? This youth is lonely in a desolate land. Where is the rain of thy heavenly grace, O bestower of the worlds? O supreme pen, we have heard thy most sweet call in the eternal realm. Give thou ear unto what the tongue of grandeur uttereth, O wronged one of the worlds. Were it not for the cold, how would the heat of thy words prevail, O expounder of the worlds? Were it not for the calamity, how would the sun of thy patience shine, O light of the worlds? Lament not because of the wicked. Thou wert created to bear and endure, O patience of the worlds. How sweet was thy dawning on the horizon of the covenant among the stirrers of sedition, and thy yearning after God, O love of the worlds. By thee the banner of independence was planted on the highest peaks, and the sea of bounty surged, O rapture of the worlds. By thine aloneness the sun of oneness shone, and by thy banishment the land of unity was adorned. Be patient, O thou exile of the worlds. We have made abasement the garment of glory, and affliction the adornment of thy temple, O pride of the worlds. Thou seest the hearts are filled with hate, and to overlook is thine, O thou concealer of the sins of the worlds. When the swords flash, go forward. When the shafts fly, press onward, O thou sacrifice of the worlds.
Annette, are you going to finish it?
No, I'm waiting for Emily.
Okay. Verily, I have heard thy call, O all glorious beloved. And now is the face of Baha flaming with the heat of tribulation and with the fire of thy shining word. And he hath risen up in faithfulness at the place of sacrifice, looking toward thy pleasure, O ordainer of the worlds. O Alí-Akbar, thank the Lord for this tablet, whence thou canst breathe the fragrance of my meekness, and know what hath beset us in the path of God, the adored of all the worlds. Should all the servants read and ponder this, there shall be kindled in their veins a fire that shall set aflame the worlds. Bahá'u'lláh.
Thank you so much. John, I'm going to have you go over the homework, please.
Okay. As an old school teacher, you got to have homework. So the first thing is to recite the prayer daily if possible. And recite it slowly. And in this case, visualize each of the lamentations. Get a picture of it. Pick one or more of the verses, but just pick at least one. And research the writings to find appropriate responses to that lamentation. And for help with this, the back of the booklet, Pondering the Fire Tablet, or the end of the section on the three commentaries for this section, has 3 suggestions for each of these verses. However, I recommend that you do your own research rather than using mine. Not that you can't use mine, I don't mean to say that, but it's best if you do it on your own. And here's the one word for next week. Be prepared to share any insights you gain. Now, someone had asked about